Welcome to the DIY Try or Buy podcast with Yiesha and Mee Hee.
We've created a space where listeners and viewers can explore beyond their comfort zone. We'll be engaging in discussions and tackling DIY projects.
We'll also try new things and buy new quality products that will enhance your way of life. So please subscribe, like, and share, and join us every Thursday for the podcast you didn't know you needed. Welcome to episode 3 of DIY Try or Buy podcast. And this episode is something that a lot of our friends and family have been waiting for. And we actually discussed it a little bit in episode 2, where Mee Hee attends Black church. Okay, we won't call it Black church. Mee Hee attends a church that I frequent. I have not joined yet. I'm not a member yet, but I really do like this ministry, and I decided to invite Mee Hee to church because as we were thinking about different podcast episodes and what we wanted to really talk about from a diversity, equity, inclusion standpoint, church came up and we set a date, and I believe you went to church with me 2 Sundays ago. Mm-hmm. And so she went to church with me and it was very interesting. I really want her to talk about.
Yeah, we'll get into kind of the experience, but first let's kind of build some context here about just religion, about how that intersects in each of our lives, yes. What we experienced growing up. So where I grew up, I went to church. It was a family thing. I went to a Presbyterian church. I'm originally from right outside St. Louis, so we would actually drive right in Illinois, right outside St. We would drive into St. Louis, into Missouri, and attend a Korean Presbyterian church. So that was kind of my upbringing with religion, my faith. It was something I had to do, not a choice. Mm-hmm. There's some great things that came from it. They actually had a small Korean language class, and that is actually where I learned how to write Korean and memorize the Korean alphabet. So those were some really great things, because had I not gone to church and had those classes, I wouldn't know how to read a little bit now. We'll get into that, but I can at least understand what Korean writing and language is. But it was forced, right? It was there were times I didn't want to go. I think as I became older, probably more kind of in the high school mm-hmm. stage, I saw things I didn't like. I saw a lot of things in that Korean community where church was about status, about what car you drove. There were, a lot of people of career status that attended. And so I always felt like not almost judged. And obviously offerings were a thing. You had to try to give X percentage of your income to the church. And I kept kind of asking, well, why? What if you don't have that kind of money? Mm-hmm. What if you're really there just to listen, to learn, to hear, the word? It was just different. It was not the best, I guess, maybe experience. And after high school, you do the college thing. So that's kind of when I was kind of gone away from my faith and religion and really understanding, do I choose this? It's been mm-hmm. forced. Is this what I want in my life? So, that's kind of been my experience, not necessarily a good one. I do hear other people that have similar type stories about their experiences growing up and their struggles with their faith and being kind of forced upon. So that's kind of where I was, So the idea when this came up of, hey, do you want to come to church with me one day? I thought, why not? Right now in my point in life, I moved to a new area in this area where we live now, and I haven't really explored any churches yet. There are many around us, but I am also one of inclusion, and I did research a few churches, but not to the point where I'm actually going to attend a service.
Right.
So when you kind of approach it, I was like, yeah, why not? Mm-hmm. Why not? I was actually very open to it.
Yeah. So with Mee Hee, her background, mine is definitely different from her. We were holiday saints growing up. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, and we only went to church on holidays when we could dress up for Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, those type of things. And we barely went, during those holidays. So I grew up always knowing that to be grateful, to be thankful for what I had, be grateful for my ancestors and all the people that were, that came before me. And I always knew to pray over my food and pray before I went to bed, but I never really had a connection, and my family didn't force religion upon me. So I wasn't raised in church. We would go every now and then, like I said, holiday saints. My faith really didn't become strong, and I really didn't feel I had a connection, but I really didn't have a connection to the four walls of the church and fellowship and community of church until I went to college. And I had one of my friends approach me about it, and I was throwing parties at the time. And he came up to me and just said, and he didn't force it on me, like you're going to hell and all that kind of craziness, but it was like gentle. He planted seeds very gingerly. Like, hey, what are you doing Sunday? Would you like to come to church? I'm like, whatever. I'm partying all weekend. I'm not trying to go to church. But long story short, there were some things that had happened and transpired. And then finally, after all the seeds he had planted, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to church with you. And so I got saved. I believe it was my sophomore year in college. And it was like a 180. Like everything changed for me. Like I was going up to my pastor, like, what can I eat? What can I wear? What can't I do? Just tell me what I can't do and I'll do it. And my pastor at the time, he's a bishop now, Bishop Cook, he basically told me, he said, it's not about do's and don'ts. It's about your relationship with God. It's not for me to tell you what to do, but it's about you getting into your word, growing that relationship, and your heart will change. And as your heart changes, you'll change. So I continue to wear the things that I probably shouldn't have worn to church. But as I grew in my faith, I matured, and that's how it started. And, I fell off here and there, got married, got divorced, and, I wavered a lot, but I've always been firm in my belief of what God has done for me throughout the years. Very grateful for that. I'm sure we'll talk about that in other episodes. But when I approached Mee Hee about church, I was still searching for a church home. I've moved, I've lived in different places. I've lived in Miami, lived in Atlanta, lived in a number of places, and I really didn't land anywhere when I moved to Indiana. So I've been here almost 5 years and still hadn't found a church home. And so my New Year's resolution was, okay, Lord, I'm going to find a church home. And so this church that I'm attending currently, there's always things you like and things you don't like, but at the end of the day, I'm all about the word, right? So I love this pastor. He's young, he's innovative. He doesn't make me just feel good per se, but he makes me want to search out more about what I need to know about God and the word. So that's what really drew me to this church and draws me every Sunday. And then I go to church on Wednesdays for Bible study. So when we talked about church, I'm like, I'm going to invite Mee Hee to this church. And those that have been to, churches, our kind of churches, throughout our lives, we know what to expect. And so I did not want to make it as a joke because church is really important to me. Again, I said before, I think in our previous episodes, so many times when you see episodes of church on YouTube, it's being made fun of or as a joke, but we really our intentions were pure as far as tapping into the things that we wanted to tap into as far as growing our relationship with God, and her coming into our world and not just seeing or knowing God for herself, but also learning about me and this side of me as far as my walk in religion. So we met at my house. You met me here. I was nervous for her. I'm going to be honest with you. I was nervous. I think the only caveat I told you was that, and I was being funny because you didn't pack a lunch, but I told her to pack a lunch because it may be very long. Now, I went to Catholic school, and we went to church. It was very short. It wasn't as long as our churches. So that was the only thing I told her, was to pack a lunch per se, because it was going to be a couple hours.
And we did. I mean, we drove together. Yiesha drove us there, and so we have a couple clips of just the conversation. I really didn't know what to expect, right? I think there's perceptions of what you see on TikTok clips, and again, it's for amusement. And that was not the intent, right? It really was to connect, with God on a Sunday, with you and I, and about this venture we're doing together.
Absolutely.
So we did very minimal prep for me, because it was to really intake this experience with Yiesha. So you'll see, we'll roll some of that footage here so you can kind of see what that was like. Hey everyone, this is Mee Hee, and Yiesha's driving, so I'm playing, on the camera here. But we are headed to church. So Yiesha asked me if I would like to go to her church Sunday, which is today, and I said yes. So this will be an experience for me. I have not attended church in a very long time. I would definitely consider myself as a faithful person, just have not attended a church. So I don't know what to expect. Yiesha, we have not made this like a big thing. Am I a little nervous? Sure, because this, it's just been a long time. But Yiesha has been attending this church. Anything you want to talk about?
So I am not a member of this church because it took me a while to actually go back to church. That's a whole nother story, but I really like this pastor's preaching. My intention is to join the church. I just haven't yet, but I'm just excited for Mee Hee to hear the pastor, get the experience, hear the word of God. But just excited for her to experience this with me for her first time. It is a considered all black church. So yeah, it should be interesting.
I don't know what to expect, but excited. We're doing this on,
You sound nervous.
I am a little. I told the people I'm a little nervous just because it's been a long time.
It's gonna be all right.
I've been asking questions just to maybe build some context for me. As I did go to church growing up, but I've been asking things like, is there a band? Right, there's a praise band. So okay, familiar with that, and she's mentioned a couple things. So just to help prepare me. But I don't. Oh, how many people? Is it crowded?
I would say not a very crowded church. I would say maybe 100 or more.
Okay.
It's definitely not. I went to Catholic school, so it's definitely not like a Catholic type of environment. But it's a lot of praise, a lot of worship, good word. And I didn't want to tell Mee Hee too much because, I don't want to dramatize it, because at the end of the day, it really is about hearing the word of God and experiencing this on a different level at a different church. So I didn't give her all the tea, but I just gave her little nuggets of what to expect. But I can't wait to see what she's going to say after church. And I did mention to her that it might be long. So y'all already know. I told her to pack a lunch, potentially. But other than that, I haven't really shared anything else.
I didn't pack a lunch, people. I don't know what I'm in for then. What is it, like 2 hours? I feel like you told me at least 2 hours.
About 2 hours. Might go over, but long as she ate before she...
Friends.
She gonna be all right. Yes, she'll be fine.
Yiesha brought a few snacks for me in case, but we're excited. So we will see you here shortly.
Yes.
And then, I think, the big question, Yiesha, we haven't really talked about
We have not. And I've been very anxious.
Yeah.
Well, not anxious, but interested in I have questions. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm. I think the first thing that I definitely want to share is, did I feel welcomed?
Yes. So let's talk from the park. So when we got out the car, from the parking lot up to the doors, what were you feeling?
Let's be very real.
Yes,
I was
please
nervous.
be real. Okay.
I was nervous. Because,
why were you nervous?
Because the fact that I feel like I'm connected somewhat to my faith, but again, everyone's gonna take that how they want to, but it's not like I went to church every Sunday, right? I haven't done that in quite some time. So for me in my brain, it's like the formality of attending church, right?
Right.
There's a structure. No matter what church it is, whatever denomination, there's a structure to church. So it was like wrapping my mind, because again, we didn't prep much other than it could be X hours long.
Right.
And so my husband grew up Catholic, so, you know, it's different, right? So look, let's be very honest, like, I know that you kneel at some points and you gotta like stand at so like right there's a production
Yes.
of every service,
An order of
right?
service, yeah.
So I didn't know what that. I think that's the nervousness of like what do I do? But once we got there, Yiesha's with me. She's gonna tell me like, hey, this is what you do, or instinctively, I think that you just kind of understand and you look and you're observant. Again, I'm observant. I'm a learner. The whole first thing I'm gonna do is I'm scanning. I'm scanning, right? Who's here? What's going on? Music is happening.
So the usher, when we were going down the aisleway to the pews, he was very nice, and I said I don't want to sit in the front. Now I don't care if I'm with Mee Hee or not. I'm not trying to sit like right in the front. Now, as you go to certain services now, people, because of COVID and a lot of people have been very comfortable with going to church, bedside Baptist, and watching streaming services, which is great. So a lot of services now are being streamed and it's live. And so I didn't want to be on camera. Like, again, I don't like being on camera. She don't really like being on camera. So we're like, we don't want to be in the front, right? And we weren't. He was very nice, and he kind of positioned us in the front, but kind of like toward the back, if that makes sense. And we sat down and we had praise and worship. We had prayer. We had one of the ministers. He got up and prayed. And how was that for you, the prayer?
I think it didn't feel abnormal. It didn't feel foreign to me. So I thought, this is great. I think, for me and in former, worlds and career, like event production is a thing, management of like an event. And so I was kind of partaking because I think the most impactful thing and different thing was how long they were singing.
Yeah, so after the prayer
was
we
good,
went to
y'all.
praise and worship.
It was fine.
Went to praise and worship, and we praised and we worshiped, and that was fairly long for your expectations, I should say. But it was good. Did you find it to be very good, or did it usher you into the experience of it, or?
Yes.
Okay.
So I not that I was keeping track, but I was looking at my clock because she said it was long, right? So I was like, okay, I'll just keep it. Right, keeping it. This was
keep
my
it real.
Keep it real.
Yeah.
So I think we praised for like 30 minutes.
Okay.
Right, but again, this is how the church service is.
Right.
So I was like, oh, okay. So love the music. Like, I love performance art. So, like, I love the drummer. Like, right. Like, I loved the music. Like, that was great.
Did you feel like you had to sit down or stand up at any point? Did you feel like you had to stand the whole time, or did you feel comfortable? Like, okay, you know what? I've had enough. I'm going to sit down. Or did you feel like you had to stand?
No, I didn't even feel like that
pressure.
At all. No pressure at all.
Okay.
Like, everyone else was standing, and so for me, it's like, it's a new experience for me. Everyone else, they've attended service, so they know each other, but I never once felt like I was out of place.
Good. That's
Especially, we were worshiping and singing, and no, I may not have known all the songs, but like, it was just the experience was already great. Like, how we were greeted, right?
And it helped.
Felt great.
And it helped too that, with a lot of these churches now, they have the words of the songs up on the screen, and people are able to sing along and join in with praise and worship. So what did you think about after the praise and worship was done? I think the pastor came up, did the announcements, and then do we go into the word right away, or the turn to your neighbor? So, that's a thing. So that kind of puts people who are visitors out of their comfort zone to actually shake hands to the right or to the left, or greet people. I think he said 5 people, and tell them, God bless you or something like that. What was that like for you? Because they don't do that in Catholic Church, or do they?
I feel like Catholic Church is like a moment where you say like peace be with you,
And also with you.
There was a lot of interaction. Like you stood up and you shook hands, and different sayings and affirmations and support, and I mean to the point where they're like, no, get out of your aisle and find 5 different, and I thought, oh wow, and I never felt out of place. Like, I told Yiesha, there was a woman right in front of us.
Old church mother.
Yes, a wonderful lady. And she was just dressed to the nines in this bright green like dress suit, and her hat.
Big old hat.
Sparkles on it.
We could see though, y'all. We could see because we were up close, so it wasn't that big.
I mean, I want to be in her presence all the time. Like, but she was so sweet. Like, everyone there, right?
I love all the church mothers there. Very nice.
There's a purpose, obviously. I just, I felt welcomed. I felt welcomed. So.
And I think too, and I could be wrong. You don't get it twisted. You are around Black people. It's not like this was your first time and we brought you out of the suburbs and you've never been around Black people. I mean, you were a teacher that taught in, predominantly Black schools. I mean, you taught at university. So being at a Black church wasn't really foreign to you per se. It was more or less the experience of worship. That was different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So the turn to your neighbor, the meeting and greeting everybody, you were cool with that. You didn't feel out of place. As you were looking around the room, was there anything that was different from other experiences? Or
I think, at one point towards the end, they had like ministers above. That was a different experience at the altar.
At the altar for prayers. Okay.
So that was a different experience. I think just I haven't been exposed to that, and to me, it kind of showed like there's so many people connected into the church and into the service that it's an extension, right? They're praying. They're praying for you.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great experience. I did not partake. I did not go up to the altar, but seeing how people are moved in their own way, I appreciated that so much, because they shared this throughout. This is about you. It's not what other people think about it. You're here because of you. Like, I just felt like that was echoed throughout the whole service, that come as you are, because you're not being judged today. And I was like, oh, yeah, great.
And it wasn't just about the priests, taking your prayers to God. It was about a community of believers that, like you said, there were ministers at the altar, that the concentration wasn't just on the pastor and his relationship with God that we needed to get, but you can get this too. And in demonstrating that, you have different deacons and ministers that are up there to say, hey, we can also assist you. So that's what I really like about this church. But let's talk about the pastor. Now, I know I don't want to say the church because, I didn't get permission. I don't know what that is yet. But this pastor, for me, because everyone is different, he's a young pastor. He was just installed, I think, last year. And I actually found this church, I'm just scrolling on Instagram. And I think it was something I put in like within my area. And so where I live, I don't really have a lot of Black churches around me. So I have to go at least 25 minutes. And I think they were doing like a ceremony for him. Found him on Instagram. I was like, well, I'm not going to that because that's going to be a lot of, ceremonial things. I want to just go to a regular service. So I went that following Sunday, learned about him. He was amazing. Had frequent some other churches. I felt great, but I just didn't feel like that was it. And you know that feeling when you just feel like, okay, this is where I want to be. But I wanted to share that with Mee Hee, this pastor. What did you think about his sermon? What did you think about that whole message?
For me, life is about connections, right? If, going to church, that you're going to hear scripture, you're going to hear how it can relate to you. I feel like everything that was shared, all the different scriptures, that we were listening to me, it's about the delivery. I just felt very connected to the message. and how he delivered, and the passion. I think here's a perception I did have, that it might be loud, right? That was a perception that I had, that when I think of black churches, I think of very passionate ministers, pastors, like, and I grew up with that. Our pastors were like very passionate. Like,
when you say loud, you're like, hallelujah,
yeah,
expressive. So you're used to that
in their message. So I did grow up, and that was very much that. Like, if you weren't accustomed to that, you might be startled.
Right.
So that was my perception, again, because that's what I had experienced growing up. Like, the pastors I saw, like, they were like in that mic, passionate. I mean, whether they were Korean, whether they, that's just what I remember. And so, I just, my impression of the pastor is that he was extremely passionate of getting the message. I got it. I actually very much connected. There were times that, like, we're friends, right? So I'm like, he's talking about us.
Right.
He's speaking to me
right
now.
And it's funny because, again, we knew we were going to take this podcast journey together. So as believers, and it's that connection that we have, we're looking for those nuggets, and so when he delivered that message and he talked about planting seeds, and I mean, like she said, he was very passionate. And when we say passionate, I mean, brother was on the ground, like doing some, it was amazing. He did an amazing job. But yeah, we definitely got the message, and he definitely spoke to my spirit, her spirit, and us as a unit in doing this podcast. But I know there was a point, I think towards the end, when I think he went down for prayer. He was praying for us, and this was after the message. I did see you cry.
Yeah. I'm getting
and
teared now. Shit. Hold on, we got prepared. That's 40,
okay.
40 something.
So I saw her cry, because it was, I mean, the spirit was high. I mean, we were there, and she was crying, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to mess this up. I'm not going to, I want it to flow. And I was going to ask you about it, but I was like, I just want to wait. I want to wait for the podcast, because don't get me crying. Stop.
Hey, just keeping it real.
We only 3 episodes in, we crying.
Felix is like, oh boy.
I know.
I think, hold on, let me get myself together.
Oh.
My makeup.
Okay.
The moment, I think, was, you and I's journey is on its course, right? Mm-hmm. I think this was the first moment, we were locking hands, I think. That's what it was. I think I just felt the energy. Mm-hmm. That it was just powerful, right? You're at church, like, you're really connecting into yourself, with your faith. Mm-hmm. I think it was a moment, like, I felt just trust.
Wow.
Right? Sorry, this is what we're going to do. This is what we locked in here.
All right.
But this is, we said you're going to get the honesty. It just felt powerful.
Yeah.
And when you get to that point, when you get to a point of,
so I'm not trying to block her her message, but
get the fan out.
Y'all know old school black churches. We had
out.
The fans with the funeral homes on it. I got the.
What is that?
So people used to make fun of me with my because I'm in my 40s, and we're gonna talk about that on when Mee Hee turns 40.
Yeah.
But I carry fans in my purse because I get hot, and when the spirit is high in the church, you get hot, and those fans that we have in church, they're wooden paddles, and then you can't fold them up. So I like to carry mine because I can get hot anywhere, right? I think I'm premenopausal, but that's a whole nother story. But I had this fan. This is not anything promotional, but it folds up, and you just put it in your, you just put it in your purse. So when she started crying, when we were hot in the spirit, I just. Fanny,
I needed it.
Are you good? Are you good now?
Good. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good, y'all. But I think that's the power of, we were just so locked in to emotion, or just being together. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that, that's why it was there.
Yeah. And you made me cry, because when she started crying, I started crying.
We were a mess.
Yeah, we were a hot mess. But everybody there was a hot mess. Not that I was looking, but the pastor is amazing, and I just thank God that he led me to that church in the way he did through social media. And I intend on joining. Don't know when, but I'm still going. I mean, that's all that matters at this point. Do you think that you would go again, or do you think that kind of prompted you to find a church, a home?
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely go again with you. No hesitation there. I think, I think I struggle sometimes with religion and faith because, in my previous life, I was a teacher. I spent 10 years in K-12 education, and that's where you really see children, youth, trying to find their way, right? And find who they are and their different identities, and there's some struggle there. I just couldn't imagine, because I've seen it, where there are people who claim to be religious, locked into their faith, hate people.
Right.
So I think when I really thought of okay, is there such a thing as an inclusive church?
Yeah.
Does it really exist?
Because we do know that Sunday is the most segregated day out the week. I mean, for me, even as a woman of color and you're working throughout the week, you don't really have a sense of community. You don't really have a safe place. I'm sure some of us do, but the majority of us don't. And so that Sunday morning for a lot of us is something that we look forward to, especially if we don't live in the communities that we were raised. In Detroit, I was a predominantly Black neighborhood. Now I'm out here in the suburbs. And so for me, that Sunday morning is a connection, not just with God, but with his people. And it has also shown me too that, as I mature as a 45-year-old and as a woman, I can't do stuff on my own. And we need each other. And so I think as you get older, you learn that. You learn that you need each other. So I'm just so glad that, you took this journey with me to church. Hopefully, it planted a seed in you to explore your faith a little more. And again, it might not even be at that church. It might not be at any church. It might just be that connection. It's like, I need to grow my relationship, or my word, and just do more.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we talked that just the week after, and it's amazing when you really just lock in. And there were moments that week I was like, "Ooh, this is true," and we just heard about you're just so
can
much. Can
we talk
more
about that? We had time.
Yeah,
okay.
let's talk about it.
Talk about it. The pastor gave us direction. He planted the word and he sent us out for the week, right? So the following day, you had some situations to come up, some trying stuff. And because we locked in, we remember what we were told, that Sunday, standing firm on our faith. And I think what did you tell me? You shared one of the acronyms or one of the messages he said. I think I had texted you.
Oh, see, now I want to check my phone.
You were going through something, and then I had said something to you, and then you used the pastor's message. And so that just showed me, we don't have to say necessarily what it was, but that showed me that you had locked in and we were actually working out our faith. We were walking in what we had been told, and we were acting it out, right?
Yeah, it's in his hands.
Right. Right.
And I really took that as, it's already in his hands. Like, we can try to control, redirect, but it's already taken care of.
It's already done.
It's already done.
It's already done.
And we just need to walk through what's already been done, and trust in him. And so we referred back to that quite a few times, because there's a lot of stuff going on.
So much.
There's a lot of people that, also try to get in your mind, and change things. And sometimes it's negative, or you see something, and instead of internalizing it, it's already been taken care of.
Yeah.
Right? You don't have to think through it or waste that energy. Let that go.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the things that we were concerned about, like with our jobs, with our family, with this podcast, his message basically said, we have to walk through by faith. We are blessed. We are children of God. And, like you said, it's already done. So I'm just excited and just happy that you went. Because, I was nervous. I'm going to be honest. I was nervous.
What were you nervous about? What was the most thing you were nervous about?
Because I didn't want to be cold, right? In a sense of just not helping you through the process of coming to a church that you had never been to. But there was a fine line for me because I also wanted you to experience God for yourself. And I didn't want to put Yiesha in the mix if God was speaking to you, if he was saying something to you, or I didn't want to direct you, oh, baby, you can sit down. Oh, baby, stand up. I didn't want to do that, right? So I was kind of nervous. So hopefully
now, seeing me.
Oh, you good.
Right? See, there's nothing to be nervous about.
She knows to bring her church fan now. Some
I've
mints.
learned. I'm a learner.
Some mints, yeah. So
I think overall, like, recapping this experience, would I do it again? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because I was there to really listen to the word. Mm-hmm. Now I was safe, right? Mm-hmm. Would I have done it 100% on my own? No, absolutely not.
Yeah, if you would have saw his church on Instagram, you probably wouldn't have.
Probably not. Right? Probably not. Because we did have to drive. Like, this is not in our immediate community. Because there are, they're just not Black churches around.
No.
So
if it is, I don't know about it.
Yeah, I don't know of any. I really don't. I don't. Our community doesn't have very many Black churches. So, if any. So, I think, what I did get from, and kind of asked me earlier, I don't know if I was very clear, but would I seek out another place or however I need to do it in my own faith? But there is, like, a couple churches that I had looked when I first moved into the area of, like, could this be, the right one for me? And then I asked you, like, would you ever go to that with me? Like, we've never attended a service at this type of church, but it's in our area. Mm-hmm. And you said, yeah, I'd try it. So stay tuned.
Again, because for me, I don't mind going to different faiths, like different churches, because I know my relationship. So if that experience at whatever church I'm going to draws me closer or strengthens what I already had or makes me respect another culture's beliefs, then so be it. Because again, I don't feel like I have to force my faith, my religion upon anyone, because I feel like if I feel like my faith is so tight and so dope, I don't have to do anything but live it out. And if it's that powerful, they'll be drawn to it. I'm a light. I don't have to dim it. I don't have to exalt anything. It's going to happen. And if it does, it does. And if it was meant to be, it's meant to be. So I have no problem going to interfaith churches, whatever church. I'm good. I'm really good.
Yeah, stay tuned for that, because I think, we're very open to seeing what that's like.
Now we're going to get a whole bunch of people inviting them to this. Well, Mee Hee is. I'm about to join this church, but I'm sure Mee Hee is going to get a lot of invitations for her to come to different churches. So be ready within the comments section.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess that does it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this will allow you to be open to having your friends, family, or people that you've probably been drawn to come to your place of worship, even if it's on the couch, if y'all watching TD Jakes together on the couch or whatever it is, if you're just ministering to them at work. But hopefully this will allow you to be open to sharing your faith with someone else and just sharing that experience with them. And I guess that's it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for episode 3. We got so many episodes and exciting episodes to share with you. Please like, share, and subscribe to our podcast, the podcast you didn't know you needed.